Daniel sat in the back of the office, staring at the blinking cursor on his screen. Another email half-written, another task he didn't care about. His tie felt too tight, his chair uncomfortable, the hum of fluorescent lights drilling into his skull. He had been at this company for 6 years, and for 6 years he had repeated the same quiet thought. This isn't me. I'm not supposed to be here. Every night he scrolled job listings, firing off resumes into the void. And every morning, the rejection emails piled up like clockwork. Each one confirmed the story he already believed. I'm not good enough. Companies don't want me. Daniel didn't realize it, but he was living inside an assumption, a paradigm he had accepted as fact, that he was unworthy, that opportunity always passed him by, that he was destined to stay stuck. One night, exhausted, Daniel stumbled on an old recording of Neville Goddard. The voice was grainy, but the words cut through like lightning. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and that assumption will harden into fact. Daniel sat up, frowning. Wish fulfilled? He'd heard about visualization before. He'd even tried repeating affirmations once or twice. But this sounded different. Neville wasn't asking him to think positive. He was asking him to feel the reality he wanted, as though it already existed. And something in him, tired of rejection, tired of the loop, decided to try. The first time Daniel closed his eyes and tried to imagine his dream job, his brain fought back. This is ridiculous, he thought. You don't have the experience. You don't have the connections. Stop wasting your time. But he remembered Neville's words. Don't argue with the rational mind. Go deeper. Find the feeling. So instead of picturing a vague dream job, Daniel imagined a single, ordinary moment. Standing in a bright office, badge clipped to his shirt, leaning over a desk as sunlight streamed across polished wood. He imagined hearing the faint buzz of conversation from co-workers. He even imagined the faint smell of fresh coffee brewing nearby. Most importantly, he let himself feel the subtle shift inside. The feeling of purpose, the relief of belonging, the quiet pride of being chosen, the calm certainty that this was his place. For the first time, instead of longing for change, he practiced the state of already having it. And as he drifted to sleep, he carried that feeling with him. Neville had called this the state akin to sleep, that liminal moment where imagination imprints on the subconscious. At first, nothing dramatic happened. Daniel would sit on his bed each night, lights off, and try to call up the scene. The desk, the sunlight, the laughter in the hall. Some nights it came easily. Other nights, his mind fought back with doubt. You're wasting your time. This is childish. You'll wake up tomorrow and nothing will be different. And yet, something subtle was shifting. During the day, he caught himself standing a little taller. When he spoke up in meetings, he didn't shrink when someone disagreed. Instead, he responded with calm authority, as though he had already stepped into that version of himself. His co-workers seemed to notice. A colleague who usually ignored him asked for his opinion on a project. His boss, once impatient and curt, nodded in quiet approval after Daniel explained an idea. But it wasn't just how others treated him. It was how he treated himself. For years, Daniel's mornings had started with dread. He would roll out of bed already defeated, dragging himself through the motions. Now, something was different. He still went to the same office, sat in the same chair, typed on the same computer, but his experience of it had shifted. Instead of feeling trapped, he felt like he was practicing, rehearsing for the role he knew he was growing into. Neville had written, "Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live." Daniel began to see it. His old assumption that he wasn't wanted, had written every interaction, every rejection letter, every dismissive glance from his boss. But by rehearsing the state of already belonging, his new assumption started leaking into his body language, his tone of voice, even the energy he carried into a room. And the world responded. That's when the external confirmations began. One afternoon, an email appeared in his inbox from a colleague he hadn't spoken to in years. She mentioned an opening at her company and thought Daniel might be a fit. A week later, a recruiter who had ignored his resume months earlier suddenly reached back out, apologizing for the delay and inviting him to interview. Daniel stared at his screen, hardly believing it. He felt a strange mix of excitement and déjà vu, because hadn't he already lived this? In his imagination, in those quiet nighttime rehearsals, he had already walked into a new job, already felt the sunlight through the tall windows. And now, life seemed to be catching up. The morning of the interview, Daniel woke up before his alarm. Usually, nerves would leave him restless, scrambling to prepare at the last minute. But this time, he felt steady, almost rehearsed, like an actor stepping into a scene he had performed 100 times. He dressed carefully, not in desperation to impress, but as though he already belonged to the environment he was walking into. His shirt felt crisp, his shoes polished, and for the first time in years, he caught his own reflection in the mirror and thought, yes, that's me. In the car ride over, his mind tried to slip back into old habits. What if you freeze up? What if they see through you? What if you blow it? But Daniel countered with the scene he had practiced. He pictured himself already at that desk, already shaking hands with co-workers. He let the feeling of calm confidence wash over him, the same way he had rehearsed night after night. When he arrived at the building, the glass doors gleamed in the sunlight. The lobby smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood. He noticed details, the receptionist's warm smile, the quiet buzz of conversation that matched pieces of the scene he had been imagining. For a moment, he wondered if he had dreamed this place into being. Sitting across from the interview panel, he felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. His palms grew damp, his chest tightened. But then something remarkable happened. Instead of fighting the nerves, he remembered Neville's words. Persist in the assumption that it is already done. So Daniel sat back, shoulders relaxed, and answered as though he already had the job. He spoke not to convince them, but to share what he already knew, that he belonged there. His words carried weight, his humor landed, his confidence felt effortless. The panelists leaned in, nodding, smiling. The room seemed lighter, easier. When the interview ended, Daniel shook their hands and walked out, not with anxiety, but with certainty. He didn't think, I hope they choose me. He thought, this is already mine. A week later, his phone rang. He was offered the position. Friends congratulated him, calling it lucky. Family praised his persistence. But Daniel knew the truth. This wasn't luck. It was the inevitable result of a shift that had already taken place in his inner world. The assumption had hardened into fact. Daniel's story is powerful, not because it's rare, but because it's repeatable. What happened to him wasn't a fluke. It was a direct demonstration of what Neville Goddard called the power of assumption. Neville wrote, "Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness." In other words, what we assume to be true about ourselves silently writes the script of our lives. Think about it. Daniel's old assumption that he was unwanted, unworthy, had kept him small, quiet, invisible. Every rejection email was simply life reflecting back the state he carried inside. But the moment he rehearsed a new identity, life adjusted itself to match. This is where most people misunderstand assumption. They think it means wishful thinking, or daydreaming, or trying to trick the universe. But Neville was clear. Assumption is not about pretending. It's about feeling into the reality you want until it feels more real than the circumstances you see in front of you. Daniel didn't just visualize an office. He entered the scene with all 5 senses: the warmth of sunlight, the hum of voices, the ease of belonging. He didn't wait until life gave him the job to feel those things. He chose to feel them first. That's the essence of the practice. Step 1. Construct a simple scene that implies your wish fulfilled. Not the whole movie, just a moment, a snapshot. For Daniel, it was sitting at the desk. Step 2. Enter the scene in imagination, night after night, until it feels natural. See it, hear it, touch it, even breathe in its air. Step 3. Carry that feeling into the waking day. Not forcing, not grasping, just living from it, as if it were already true. And here's the part that unnerves people. Reality doesn't always change instantly. Daniel spent weeks practicing before anything shifted. But persistence was the key. Neville insisted, if you persist in your assumption, it will harden into fact. Daniel's story proves it. At first, he saw only small cracks, co-workers noticing him, an email here or there. But he didn't quit. He didn't collapse back into the old story. He held the new state until the external world had no choice but to conform. This is the hidden paradigm. We are taught to believe change comes from action alone. Send more resumes, work harder, chase louder. But Neville turned that inside out. The deepest cause is not in the action, but in the assumption that fuels it. Daniel still sent applications. He still prepared for the interview. But those actions carried a different energy. Confidence instead of desperation. Calm instead of fear. And that difference is what the world responded to. So here's the question for you. What assumption have you been living under that has silently been writing your story? And if you could choose differently, tonight, in the quiet of your own imagination, what scene would you rehearse until it feels real? Neville believed this wasn't just a technique. It was the very secret of creation itself. Change your state, and the world bends to match. That's not magic. That's law.